welcome. I'm Peggy, and we have so much to share with you today. And we have a telephone number and a website, and we have two people here with so much knowledge. I hope I can just remember a little bit of what you have to share with us. And I want to introduce two special people. Reese Lyerly is here. He is the director of something called Gardening for Good. And it's kind of a unique thing, and it's fascinating. And next to him is Kelsey Burchak, and Kelsey is the volunteer coordinator. They have school gardens, church gardens, community gardens, and have you noticed how much it costs at the grocery store? More and more people are deciding, I'm going to have my own garden. And I think it's a good thing all the way around. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having us today.
And he brought some good soil and some plants, and you're going to get us all ready.
We're going to get our hands dirty.
But what exactly is Gardening for Good? And it's just right here. It's not in other places in the United States, as far as you know.
As far as we know, exactly. So Gardening for Good is a network and resource center for community gardens in Greenville County.
Okay.
And what that means is that we have a network of about 80 different gardens all across Greenville, and we try to provide them with the resources that they need, whether that may be volunteers, tools, education and training, plants, so that way we can see gardens thrive across Greenville.
That's beautiful. And maybe there are people in some other area that will see this and say, we could do this in our area and have our own community gardens.
I hope so. We're about 4 years into this, and it's been quite a blessing to see gardens just popping up all across Greenville.
And you both are graduates of Furman University.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you got interested in this, and it's become a passion. And you even have books. This is beautiful. Gardening for Good. This is the Community Garden Manual. Beautiful, beautiful. And the things that you have, and here's another one, Home Vegetable Gardening from Clemson University Extension. So you see there's help out there. And if you're in this area, we've got it right here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so now tell me, you go to schools and churches? How do you get all this done, Reese?
Right, so we define community gardening as any group of people who are gardening together, which allows us to celebrate the rich diversity of people and communities in Greenville. And so we find ourselves working with lots of churches, schools, neighborhoods, after-school programs, other nonprofits. And really, as long as it's a group of people who are looking to grow vegetables, herbs, flowers, fruits, whatever they want to grow, we're happy to work with them.
Well, we traditionally have had very poor soil in South Carolina, right? And you've done a lot. Look at this. That's
right, so our soils don't
con
typically look this good.
This is container gardening.
Yeah, we have a container here today.
But there are a lot of people who live in condos and apartments and so on that can still have container gardens.
So they can still have container gardens, or we actually have a lot of gardens that are open for membership as well. So maybe you live in an apartment somewhere, don't have access to land, or don't want to maintain a garden on your own property. There are opportunities to join gardens so that way you can still have a space of your own.
That's beautiful. But tell us about this. You've worked on that soil. I know you have.
Well, I didn't work on this soil particularly. We're used to the nice red clays in Greenville, so we're used to getting nice and muddy on rainy work days. For this, we actually got a container potting soil mix, because there's particular needs for our plants when they're in containers rather than in the ground. And so we have a special mix that we have here. Kelsey and I work really hard at our teaching garden. We have a compost bin on site where we're constantly mixing in all types of food scraps and leaf matter and organic matter
stuff
to
that
help heal our earth.
We just throw away, and it can be reused.
Absolutely. So it's actually, our garden is right next to a local cafe, and so they give us a lot of their extra grocery scraps or extra food scraps, and that helps to go into enrich our soil at our garden.
Now, is this what you would urge people at home to do? Instead of just putting it down the drain, you save it?
You can save it, you can find a community garden that might need some compost and some extra nutrition, or you can create your own compost at home.
Okay, so you have the knowledge to help all of us learn to do this. So now you're going to plant something in there?
Yeah, whenever you're ready. So we brought a
Okay,
handful
show
of
us
different
what you
things
do.
today. So it's spring, finally. We've been waiting on it to get here. And we are so excited for spring to get here. So we're not quite ready for the summer stuff. We're not quite ready for the tomatoes and the peppers and the eggplants.
It's a little early,
It's
but
a little early, but it is a good time for things like our greens. So we actually brought an Asian green with us today, a pak choi, which this is a very nice, tasty vegetable that's going to be okay with the heat that we have coming on some of our warmer days of spring, but is also going to enjoy those cooler nights. So this is a nice transitional spring vegetable
all
that
right,
we
now,
brought
so
with
you
us.
would use that in a salad, or would you cook it, or what?
You can use it both ways. Pak choi can be a little bitter, so I typically like mine cooked. It's definitely something that you can eat raw, but I think it's more traditionally prepared cooked.
Okay.
Think of it more like a cabbage, something
Now
that you
you
probably like that
you
way.
don't raise that from seed.
So these are not seeds that we raised. Growing plants from seed can sometimes be a difficult trial and error type of process, and we aren't lucky enough to have a greenhouse on site where we can do
Okay.
that. So these are our plants that we got from a local nursery. So again, we have a local nursery that we like to support. As we're looking for the plants that we brought with us today, we wanted to look for plants that looked very healthy and sturdy. These have nice green leaves, nice strong root base, and are not too large for their container size yet. So we don't want plants that are just overflowing in here as well. So that was definitely something that we were looking for as we chose these. So if we're looking to plant, as we pop these out, so these are pretty young plants. Sometimes you may be familiar when you have roots that are just wrapped all around and around. So you want to make sure that you break up your root system. And sometimes I feel like it can feel like you're hurting your plant. Sometimes I don't know if I kind of am a plant whisperer.
But it doesn't.
And talk, but it doesn't hurt. It actually is going to help your plant at the end, because if you keep your roots all circled up, they're going to only grow in concentric circles rather than
Okay.
growing out. So we want our roots to grow nice and deep to access all the good things in our soil.
Now these are sort of new. Will they grow?
So these will grow actually. So I'm probably gonna add in a rosemary to here as well.
Oh, this is what I love.
Yeah, I
Oh.
love rosemary, and actually,
So nice.
I'll talk about that in a second. We chose this particular one. If we're thinking about containers, this is a trailing rosemary, so we can plant this one in the corner,
So
and it will just kind
pretty.
of fall over
Yeah.
and fill up the basket.
Very graceful.
But if we plant this in here, this will actually take up and grow into. It probably would feel quite comfortable in this size of space. So
Okay.
it's going to be quite large when we're ready to harvest it. If we're looking to put it into the ground, so these are nice and watered. This is not wet soil, but we're digging our hole, so we want to get it down. We don't want to plant it too high up where it's exposed, but we also don't want to plant it so far down deep that we're covering it up. So you're trying to get it to the ideal soil height so we can cover it all the way up right up to its root base and just lightly push it in. So you're not looking to pound it in, because we want to have airspace for our roots to get all the water and the nutrients that we're looking for them to grow. But just something like that, pat it down in, and then water it in nice and deep.
Okay, and then you would put the rosemary.
Yeah,
in
so
there.
I can do that as well. So I also brought rosemary with us. So one of the things that we work with our gardens is we ask people what they like to eat, first of all. So if you're going to take the time to grow something, you want to make sure that you like what you eat. And I think all three of us love rosemary.
Yes.
So it's one of our
It
favorites.
adds a lot to
It's
any
amazing.
recipe
To
almost. Yeah.
anything, and there's nothing better than fresh rosemary. And so
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And so this particular variety of rosemary likes, as you can kind of see in this, it's already kind of falling over. And so this one likes to just be planted deep and then just trail over the side. So I thought for our container, I might actually need to move this back a little bit, but I thought this pak choi would be nice and happy here in the middle. And
And
then
then
we
you
can
plant this in the corner.
and plant this in the corner, so that way it can just. Let's see. This one may actually be more. So this may give us a better example. So
Look
see
at
how
the roots
thick
on that.
our roots are on
Look,
that.
Reese, my
Right.
goodness. Now you have to break that up.
Right. So you're going to want to break it up, and it
I see,
kind
if
of
I hadn't met you, I wouldn't know to do that.
right. I mean, it's definitely one of the
Frustrating.
things. You definitely want to make sure you're breaking it up, so that way, again, that your roots are getting all the way out and getting up all the nice nutrients that we've put here into our soil. So actually, I'll dig us a hole
I'm
over
gonna
here on this side.
Give you a little help here.
Oh yeah, thank you. I'm going to move our pak choi back to the
Wait a
other
minute.
corner.
Here we go, just in case.
I'm making a
dirtying up your
mess, aren't
corner
I?
for your table.
And we're going to
There
plant
we
that in
go.
here, and this is going to be really happy just
Oh,
trailing
but
over
that's
here
so
on the
pretty.
side. Right. And now what you probably want to do is look up if there's any dishes that you could make with your greens and your rosemary to go on with one another. So that's what we brought with us today. We also brought oregano, which is another fantastic herb. Both of these are plants that are really easy to maintain. So for the most part, we put our green in here. We're going to make sure that we water it. We know that we have good soil, right? And so this is just going to grow, and then you're going to harvest it like a cabbage. You can harvest the whole plant at one time.
Okay, now you would not then put this in the same container.
So I wouldn't, just because of space. So you're going to want to make sure that your plants have the space they need to grow.
You don't want to crowd too many plants in
Right.
one little space,
Right.
right?
So this little guy's going to want to make sure that he has plenty of sunlight. So for this particular size, we wouldn't want to put more than just this one rosemary plant. Or you could probably put two of these.
Yeah, I think
of
we
these
need
pak
one more
choys. You
over
want to put?
there.
I'll let
I
Kelsey
do
do that
really.
one for
Alright.
us. We can put that
Yeah.
one over there.
Otherwise, it looks a wee bit lonesome.
I know it needs a buddy, doesn't it?
Gotta break up our roots.
Now, this is free. In other words, you are an outreach to anyone who wants to learn or to garden, and you do not charge for this.
So we do not charge for the services that we provide. We are kind of like a free consulting business for community gardens. So we do charge for a few of the services that we have, though. So like our manual, that's one of the first things that we offer to our gardeners.
this.
That's something that we have available for $20. And a lot of that's just so that way up front, there's an initial investment. We want to make sure that the
yeah.
gardens themselves, if we're investing all these time and resources, that they're invested in the process.
But if somebody
too.
out there is really serious and wants to start a garden, that you don't charge them for
No,
that.
we don't.
And there's something in here about organic gardening
Right. So we've taken the approach of trying to educate.
and designing where you put what and how, and that does help then the success of the garden.
Absolutely. So I think even here on this page, you're going to want to make sure that you have full sun, good soil, access to water. So that way, we want you to enjoy gardening. We don't want you to struggle.
Here's
all
a
summer
whole
long.
thing on organic gardening, if you're so inclined. There's all kinds of information and I love it that you have gone into schools. Now, do you have to be asked? Does a school a middle school, for instance, have to call you and say, I want a garden? Or do you call them and say, we're available?
So right now, it is that schools call us. And
All
the
right.
reason why we have it that way
Yeah.
is because we have so many phone calls that the two of us are maxed out. So at this point, we have enough phone calls to really keep us
But now
busy.
that summer is coming and school will be out, you will have gardening in the summer for kids. Am I right?
Right. So we work with summer day camp programs.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So we are going to go to a quick break, and we have a lot more to share with you. And we do have a website and a phone number. And so if you live in a neighborhood and you want to get your neighbors all together and maybe start a garden, you can save money, you can learn, you can bring your children and get them involved. I think to me, this is like a healing movement. It gives people a chance to be together, to learn about God's wonderful world and how things grow. It's beautiful. Thank you. We're going to be right back.